Hello, 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 and welcome to Project Close Sunday night self-care session. I'm sorry I'm a couple of minutes late. I was at my surprise birthday party. It isn't my birthday today, it's tomorrow, but one of my darling friends snuck it in on me and gave me a surprise birthday party. So thank you, you know who you are. Mwah. I love you so much. And I got this amazingly gorgeous infinity ring, which if you know the work that I'm doing, you know that I'm completely obsessed with the infinity sign. And tomorrow my birthday is my 44th birthday, which 4 and 4 makes an 8, and 8 is my favorite number because it looks like the infinity ring, so the infinity sign. So I'm just going to have a look who's logged in and who's here. Hello, I can see some of you. How exciting is this? Tonight we've got a really big topic: how to survive the heartache and heartbreak of being left by someone. Woo! It's a humongous topic. So I'm just going to quickly have a look to make sure that everything is set up, that you can hear me. If you can hear me, give me some thumbs, write me a message. Yes. Hello. Great. All right, let's get this show on the road. Hi, Emily. How you doing? Thank you so much for being here with me tonight. Oh, I'm getting all the thumbs up. Thank you. Whew. All right, let's talk about this topic tonight: surviving the heartache and the heartbreak of being left by someone. So you guys that know me well know that, almost 4 years ago now, my now ex-husband just from one day to the next walked out of my life. And I'm just going to be super honest with you. It was the shock of a lifetime at the beginning. It was just completely and utter emotional hell. And even though I'd done all of this studying and I'd done all of this personal development work, and I certainly knew my stuff, and I was coaching people all day long in the same topic, I had to learn a whole other couple of lessons, which I'm going to share with you tonight. So I not only come at this topic from a very academic perspective, I am very read and studied on this particular topic, human behavior in particular, but also the transformational process of overcoming your obstacles. But also I have first-hand experience of this. Also early in my life, sure, I've been dumped before, but certainly being left out of the blue after an almost 14 year marriage was the shock of my life. It was the absolute shock of my life. But it will make sense as I go into the topic, in the substructure of tonight's topic. Because I know a friend of mine said to me yesterday, you know, she has had some very significant people in her life die, like family members, very close family members. And she recently said that being left by her primary relationship was worse than that. And it was because, and she said, and these are not my words, so bless her, she said, at least when somebody's dead, you know they're dead. And that's true. One of the big problems in the heartache and heartbreak of being left is that it's so many emotions kind of stuck together. The way that I described it to a friend when it was happening to me, it's like, imagine that you come home from a day out and you can kind of see smoke coming out of your house, and you think you're just going to do a little bit of firefighting. You know, you maybe left a pot on, and you get into your house and every single room in your house is on fire. So I want you to imagine, like, the house is your life. There is a fire in your emotional room, in your financial room, in your physical room, in your, it's like every single house is on fire. There are so many emotions in there. There is grief, there is loss, there is fear, there is overwhelm. And that's why the most important thing to understand about heartache and heartbreak is that it goes through stages. And there's some things you could do in some stages, and in other stations, they just won't work. So predominantly what you need to understand is that there are 3 different sections in the heartbreak. Number one is the shock. In the beginning, when somebody tells you, phones you, emails you, whatever, you just basically are in shock. It is a completely numbing, discombobulating, shocking event in your life. And in the beginning, you are going to feel, well, really out of touch with reality, depending on things like, the length of the relationship, the intensity of the relationship, do you have children? Some people experience that shock to a much greater level than others. But just to show you in my case is when I eventually found out, I went walking. I thought I was walking to my friend's house, and I ended up walking for 2 hours, and I just lost time. So the number one most important thing within that section of shock is you must be safe. If you feel that you are not safe, call someone straight away, a friend, a family member. Somebody needs to make sure that you're safe. Like little things like when you are in a state of shock, one of the things that happens first of all is your short-term memory system goes out of the window. So you will forget whether you've left the iron on, the pot on, the heating iron on, whatever, your short-term memory. So in the beginning, you might find that you have to double, triple check. You might also find that you forget to eat, you forget to drink, you forget because the short-term memory just goes out the window. So shock. The first category of shock is we must find ways to build an emotional cocoon around you. So just the basics. In the beginning, it's about food, it's about water, it's about sleep, it's about safety, it's about making sure that you get held in that place of shock. Of course, many of us are alone or are then alone with children. So this is one heck of a big learning curve to start to learn how to self-soothe and self-parent yourself without slipping down the slippery slides of coping mechanisms. So a lot of us, go down the alcohol route to numb, the food route to numb. It's just it's this very intense place that is like this cauldron of pain, but also growth, where you really have to commit to yourself. So one of the commitments I made to myself in the beginning was I needed to get up every day and shower. I needed to make myself a meal from scratch, at least one. I needed to drink 1 whole liter of water, and I had to go for at least a 20-minute walk. That was my basic, no matter how crap got or how depressed or fearful or anxious I got, I kind of made a commitment to myself. A lot of the books talk about that. You need to build a sanctuary around you. Also, if you can't do it by yourself, do reach out for help and ask people to help you, especially with food and things like that, and helping look after kids and things like that. So in the beginning, in that shock phase, it's about building this beautiful cocoon around you to really just hold you in that space so that you don't slide into the coping mechanisms. I'm just going to kind of give you an overview. The second stage is when the shock has subsided. Now, for some people, that shock is, 1 week. For some people, that shock is a month, 2, 3. For some people, I've met people that were divorced for 10 years and were still in some kind of a state of shock. That tells me that you haven't, or you aren't able to really commit and step into that self-care and self-soothe and self-parenting. At some stage, if you do not manage to self-soothe and self-parent, you may have to see your doctor and ask for chemical help in terms of Valium if it's really extreme and you are really almost catatonic, and SSRIs or antidepressants to just get you that little bit up, because the second stage is almost more important than the first stage, although we can't really say that, because the first stage is just natural. You're in a state of shock. It happens to all of us. It is normal. The most important part there is self-soothe, self-care, cocoon. Make sure that you look after. Make sure that the essentials really keep going. Make sure that you don't slide into the coping mechanisms. If you do not beat yourself up, but really in that beginning, you just need help, you need support. And there will always be support. Support will sometimes come in other places where you least expect it, but the support will be there. So in that shock stage, the number one thing is, well, there's three: self-care, self-soothe, self-parent. And on some level, sometimes these big shocks come to us to teach us that kind of thing. I'm not going to go into too much right now of kind of like the lessons and the meanings. But one of the reasons why heartache and heartbreak is so severe in some people is because they have outsourced their self-worth and their self-love and their self-care to the other person. So their entire life became about the other person. That was certainly what I got into, is I realized that when my ex left, it was like, I just realized how many parts of my life were hooked and about him, and that heartbreak almost came to snap me back out of that and come back into who I am. It's not about becoming selfish or vain or anything like that, but certainly for some of us, this heartbreak has come to make us come back into self, to not always outsource, kind of lose ourselves in relationships. And I know you know that you are one of them. I'll put my hand up. I certainly have had that pattern in the past. So stage one is the shock. Really, it's about caring and holding the space. Stage two is when your mind has started to settle out a bit. It's kind of able to see into a place where you can actually start talking about the bigger picture, because time does not fix anything. And there is a time to be shocked and a time to self-care and self-soothe. But then comes the time, like yin and yang, where you need to step into active healing. The second stage is the stage of active healing. And this is what 99.99% of the human beings on this planet never get around to. And that's why they stay in this stage one of shock and just go like a loop, like a wheel. You must step into the second stage at some stage. And that's where you need to go into the active healing part of the lesson, the message, the blessing, the gift. I did another video of finding the lesson, the message, and the blessing and the gift in your challenges. This is no different. Relationships break, and you might not like to hear this. Relationships break because of a 50-50 split. Now, some of you are going to say to me, no. My relationship didn't break because of that. My relationship is busted because the other person did X, Y, Z, whatever. I guarantee you, with every single person that I've worked with, and also in my case where in the beginning I just thought, what the hell just happened? Why on earth did you walk out? I have no idea. Because you can also ruin a relationship by not speaking up, by not speaking your mind. And that was certainly the case in my relationship. There was no crazy aggression or disagreement or anything like that. It was all about, mainly from my perspective, and you do in that second stage, you have to take ownership. You have to take ownership of what you did to ruin that relationship, even if that is not being emotionally available to yourself, not speaking up about what you really want, not speaking up about, or maybe not knowing what you really need at all. It's, I can tell you, hand on my heart, even if you are in a emotionally abusive relationship, is you need to take the ownership. And it's not about blame. It is not about blame. It's about ownership, that you didn't know how to be in a healthy relationship, that you didn't know how to step out of it in self-care, that nobody put a gun to your head. You stayed and stepped into that relationship because you weren't aware enough. You didn't have the tools. Can you see it's not about blame? It's about ownership. Because the moment you can see how you also contributed to this situation, that is a powerful, powerful place. And then to understand why this breakup has come. What lesson has it come to teach you? Also, to be really honest, that it wasn't just always bad. There were good days as well. You know, no relationship is always bad or only bad. And also really to step into that place of understanding what message the universe is trying to tell you. What was the purpose of this relationship? Because every single relationship has a purpose in your life. Every single relationship comes to your life to teach you something, to grow you in that relationship. Because relationships are, that's kind of like where all the skeletons come out of the closet. You can't hide anything about yourself. This is the place where you are most exposed, most vulnerable. And at the end of the day, we all come to relationships terrified, not quite ready, not educated enough in relationship dynamics, but we come to relationships with equal strengths and weaknesses, and the purpose of the relationship is to mold them together, that ideally you can really take your strength and lift the other person's weakness up, and they can take their strength and lift your weakness up. But what really happens in relationship, we stand in the tower of our strength, we look down on the other person's weakness, and we kind of go, why aren't you blah, 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 blah? And the other person goes, well, why aren't you blah, blah, blah? But that is the thing, is this is an amazing exercise, and you can do this as well if you've been left by someone. What would the other person say about you if they had to write on a piece of paper? If only my ex-partner was more this, and that. And you can write down as well, if only my ex-partner was more this, and that. And that sentence alone tells you where you're standing on your tower from your strength, looking down on their weakness. A lot of ladies come to me and say, oh, well, if only my partner had been more emotionally available. Guess what? That is your strength. And that was his weakness. I'm just taking an example. It's not for everybody. It was his weakness. It was your job to grow and nurture that weakness. And when that person is in their weakness, that's the weakness of their inner child. That's not to start, barraging around and go, I can't believe you never communicate. Oh my God, why do you do this and that? Imagine you had to lift the weakness of a child into strength. But likewise, what your ex would say about you is your thing to learn as well. Yes, ideally it was their job to help grow you from that weakness. But the spiritual purpose of a relationship is often in what the other person most criticizes about you, because that's your spiritual journey to learn within that relationship, to be stronger and to share your strength as well. So we had stage 1 is all about shock. Stage 2 is active healing. You need to actively step into those questions. What went right? What went wrong? What were we both in the relationship to learn? What was my strength? What was their weakness? Did I really help them, or did I just berate them on their weakness? What was their strength? What was my weakness? Have I grown in that journey? There's always a message, a lesson, a blessing, and a gift in every single relationship, no matter how wrong it looks on the outside. And what I need to tell you most importantly about stage 2 is please do not jump into another relationship until you are 100% clear about the lesson, the message, the blessing, and the gift of the relationship that either just left you or you left. Because guess what? It was here to teach you a lesson. If you didn't learn the lesson, what is going to happen with the next person? You're just going to recreate it over and over and over and over again. And that's really why stage 2, every single person, in my opinion, should go through active healing before they even think about going into another relationship. Because if you don't know why things happen the way they do, you have absolutely no map to go into the next one and actually navigate it a different way. One of the great gurus of relationships said, there is no such thing as a wrong relationship, just a wrong way of going about it. And really, that's the problem. None of us know how to do relationships. And just because you care a lot doesn't mean you know anything about relationships. You'll see in my courses and in my workshops and in my Sunday night specials, I'm going to be talking a lot about what it really takes to conduct a deeply connected, highly communicative relationship. I bet you don't know right now. Most of the people say, oh, it takes sacrifice. And that is exactly the wrong answer. Okay, but more of what it takes to do relationships in another session. We are on how to recover and survive the heartache and heartbreak of being left by your partner. So stage 3, so stage 1 was, you got it, shock. Stage 2 was active healing. Stage 3 is now moving on with your own life. And that is hard to do. All the way from in a divorce, taking off the ring, having to live in the house that the person left you in, seeing them on Facebook, maybe with a new partner doing all the things that you love, or maybe with a new partner on Facebook doing all the things they never did with you. The moving on part is an obstacle course, especially in today's life with social media. Maybe you still share friends. Yeah, well, let's talk about friends for a moment. When you are in a state of shock, you may find that you might be in a state of double shock about who is really there for you and who isn't. On top of that, I need you to be really aware about whose counsel you seek. Because every person that you ask about your situation will not only have their own perspective based on their history, their experiences, maybe their divorce, but also every person you speak to will have their own agenda. Do they want you to be their friend? Do they not want you to lean on them? Do they want you to just get on with it? Every single person you speak to who's not in a third party disconnected, so like a coach or a therapist, it's not by malice or anything, they will have their own perspective on it and they will have their own agenda. The third thing I think I want to talk about with regards to other people when it comes to you getting dumped or divorced is you need to cut people a lot of slack. They will say some unbelievably awful stuff to you. Like, for instance, with me, the first thing they always asked is, oh, you're getting divorced. Do you have children? And I said, no. And they said, oh, well, then it's not that bad. So I am a child of a divorce. I know what it's like to be a child of a divorce, but please, can we stop qualifying whether somebody's pain is greater than the other one just because of circumstances of children or not? Just because somebody doesn't have children doesn't mean that they're going through a lesser or greater hell. You don't know. Maybe they tried to have children. Maybe that's why their partner left them. So please, if you are a person trying to help somebody through a shock or a divorce, just go, I'm so sorry, please let me know whatever I can do with you. As the person going through that situation, you need to cut people a lot of slack because they really don't know how to handle that situation. So I'm just going to check in with you. Okay, we've done first section, shock. Second section, active healing. Third section, moving on with your own life. Okay, let's quickly have a look. Please, in the comments below, let me know your questions. I really, really, really want to know all your questions and how you're doing with this topic. This is a big topic. Okay, let's have a look. All right. Let's have a look how you're all doing. All righty. Okay, fantastic. Okay, everybody's on board, everybody's okay. Give me some thumbs up, give me some comments so that I know you're still with me. Fabulous. Okay, cool. All right. Right, so we were in shock in number 2, active healing in number 3, moving on. There we go. Thank you for letting me know that I'm still live. That's brilliant. Thank you. Brilliant. Okay, so the heartache and heartbreak of being left by someone. Let's talk about the energetic part of it a little more. So I'm going to say something that's going to probably shock you quite a lot. And that is that somebody leaving you is really the process of breaking open and breaking through. So when a lot of people talk about that heartbreak is really about breaking your heart, it's not really about breaking your heart at all. It's about the breaking of your hopes, your dreams, your assumptions and illusions. And with that breaking, you are being broken open out of your old paradigms, your old way of beings, because usually a divorce or a heartbreak, a breakup comes to kind of smack you awake from your habits, from your patterns. A lot of the time is from a place where you weren't in self-love, where you weren't in self-care, where you didn't have enough schooling about how to conduct a relationship, but also were you in illusions of happily ever after? Were you making assumptions about your partner's capacity to meet you emotionally? Were you just trying to chase a dream rather than actually being real about that love is yin and yang, and that every relationship has challenge and support? Every person will support and challenge you, and every single person has traits that you will like about them and not like about them. And so the idea that a relationship or a marriage or a partnership is only one-sided is the thing that ruins so many relationships and causes so many breakups, because due to the nature of media and movies, we've been taught that love is just hearts and roses and up, and that's not true love. If you think about somebody you truly, truly, truly love, like a child or a family member, or maybe your dog or your cat or your pet, you are totally paying the price of their downsides all day long, happily. If you think about a hobby you do and that you really, really love, you love it because you love the good bits and you're very happy to pay the price of the darkness, of the downside, of the thing that you have to do to get to your hobby. That is what true love is. When you are in a state of heartbreak, that generally tells me two major things. Number one, you do not understand the nature of life. Number two, you do not understand the nature of love. You do not understand people and why they do the things they do. You do not understand relationships, and you don't understand the divine order and purpose of your life. Now that might seem incredibly shocking. Take a breath. Nobody ever told you this stuff. But when you understand that you are the right person at the right time, experiencing the right support with the right challenge at the right pace, and that the right obstacles and diversions come to you to teach you the right lessons for you to grow to your highest potential, when you understand the foundations, I call them the 12 core life lessons, when you understand the foundations of life and humans and human behavior, then rejection or somebody leaving you is not as bewildering, especially not if you understand that as soon as somebody steps out, somebody else steps in, that actually you need to be redirected by a rejection to meet these other people and go on this other adventure, because that's where your strength lies, and that this relationship is just a stepping stone to the next stage of your life. However, it also tells me, number two, so in first line, if heartbreak lasts long and long and long, more than the shock stage, because naturally the shock should wear off, then it's telling me that you are missing fundamental information about the nature of human beings, of love, of life, and the divine order, and why things happen to us, really difficult things happen to us, in order to grow us to our highest potential. But in second line, it also tells me about the state of your self-love. Because when you are in a state of wholeness and self-love, heartbreak is not nearly as devastating as it is when you have continuously placed your worth and your joy and your love and everything else on the other person in their life. So that's the two major things. Well, those are the two major things I'm trying to teach with my courses, is that suffering is not because of difficult things happen to us, challenges coming our way. That's a normal order of life. If you are unable to navigate those challenges without melting down, breaking down, going off the rails, coping mechanisms, drugs, alcohol, food, whatever, then that tells me not that there is something wrong with you, but that you are missing vital information about the nature of life and how to fall in love with yourself. Because if those two things are truly in place, if you are truly and utterly in a place of self-care, self-respect, self-compassion, self-acknowledgement, and you understand why people do the things they do, why life hands you challenges in order to grow you. Once you are fully aware of those three elements, know yourself, know why people are the way they are, and understand life, then you are solid. And then rejection will, it will still come, it will still slightly wobble you, but it will not take you off the rails the way that it does to some people. And I will put my hand up, it took me right off the rails because I had placed all my self-worth in the other person. Even though I knew a lot, I knew so much about life and people. That's what I'd studied intensely. That's what I'm coaching and teaching is my self-love was still not in a place where it could see rejection just as a redirection. Okay, so you need education about you and self-love. You need education about why do people do the things they do, human behavior. I'm going to talk a bit more about that in a minute, but also why does life do the things it does? I'm going to give you a little roundup of how to get to a place where you can trust the universe, where you can really relax into that place of understanding that the right thing is happening, even though it looks so horrendous on the outside. Okay, so heartbreak is about not the breaking of your heart, but the breaking of your illusions, your assumptions, your hopes and your dreams, but also is the breakthrough to showing you that you need to understand life, the universe, and the way people work. And it's supposed to break you open to greater self-love, greater self-care, and stop this habit of outsourcing yourself to other people, especially in relationships. I'm just going to have a look. How are you going? Give me some thumbs. Let's see how you guys are doing. Any questions? Do I have any questions? Hey! What are some good self-soothing methods? Thank you, Helen. So you'll see I did another video. So if you go onto the Project Glow Facebook page, there's videos about self-care and self-soothing. So really, the list is long. I will attach a little list in the comments. Meditation, yoga. In first line, it is breath. Whenever you are in shock of any kind, just come back to the breath. The breath needs to be equally in and out. That alone, because when we get into a state of shock and stress, our breathing is erratic and it's quite shallow up in the shoulders. So I put my hands on my belly and I just breathe in and out. You can do that right now. In and out, and again. In and out. The in breath needs to be equal to the out breath. So that's my favorite one. I think the other ones that I did, I Netflixed a lot because distraction is also self-soothing. I have a warm, cozy, heated blanket. Warmth, just warmth, it did it as well. Hot baths with Epsom salts. You can get all sorts of really amazing essential oils that help you calm down. Certain foods help you calm down. So there's a million different ways and a lot. So have a look at the other video that I did about self-care and self-soothing. the main thing is what works for you. You need to go, and this is why shock is the number one self-care journey, because you need to find ways to self-soothe, self-care, and self-parent yourself. So actually, in this terrible wrong thing, the right thing is happening, because you desperately, it's like the universe forcing you on a journey of self-love and self-care, because you're so overwhelmed and so shocked that you have no other choice but to self-care. I'm sure when you think back to when a big shock happened to you, what happened? You kind of went inward a little. You kind of say, I can't deal with any more shit, and please, just don't call me or whatever. So it really, in the wrong, something right is happening, because you are being forced to self-care. You are being forced to understand, well, if I don't look after myself with my food and my water, and I really need, a 20-minute walk a day, and I definitely have to talk to my friend at least for half an hour, you need to figure out what is self-care and self-soothing to you. That's really important. All right, let's see if I've got anything else. I hope that answers the question. Self-care, self-parent, self-soothing, that's the lesson that heartbreak and heartache comes to deliver to us in the shock phase. When you get to stage 2, active healing, then you're ready to hear, what is the lesson? What is the pattern? What is it trying to awaken me to? And then in the 3rd stage, it's the moving on stage. It's really removing yourself from this obsession with how is the other person doing? What is happening to them? And, it's really stepping fully into, there is a me before there ever was a we. And sometimes some of us lose the me in the we. And when the heartbreak and the heartache comes along, you are being forced back into me. Because, a partnership is a team, and a team is only as strong as its weakest link. If you're one of those people, and I certainly was one of them, that gets into the relationship and then it's all about the other person, all about, we'll just do what you want, we'll go on your holidays, we'll do what you want. Guess what? Universe is going to go, I'm going to take that relationship away from you so that you can get back to just you. Just what are your needs? What are your wants? Not some of us, especially those who are emotionally unavailable to ourselves. And by the way, if you keep attracting emotionally unavailable people, then you need to point the finger back to yourself, because every relationship is a reflection. How are you emotionally unavailable to yourself? Remember, it's not about blame, it's about ownership. Because the universe is constantly trying to bring you back to love, back to love, back to you, back to core, back to self. And that's why heartbreak and heartache, some of the biggest lessons of that is, were you outsourcing your worth to other people, and do you need to be smacked back into yourself? Right. Like I said, when heartbreak and heartache goes on for a long time, now everybody suffers a little bit of shock. It tells me that you are lacking the understanding and education about why people function the way they do, how life works, how relationship works, and how you are not in a state of good boundaries, wholeness within yourself. So I'm going to talk about now the 5 questions that will drive you insane when somebody has left you. Are you ready for those? All right. Number 1. Your primary question that will loop like a crazy rabbit on a wheel in your head is, why are they doing this to me? Or a slight variation, which is more universally slanted, is, why is this happening to me? That tells me that you do not understand human behavior and you do not understand the way that life works. I can't go into too much details, but I will tell you that human beings leave relationships when they feel that their values are no longer met. Now notice what I didn't say in that sentence. I did not say human beings leave relationships where the other person doesn't meet their needs. I said human beings leave relationships when they perceive their needs not being met. Because you could be the most beautiful, most amazing, most spectacular partner. If the other person doesn't think so, they will leave. Also, if the other person has the perception that another person will give them something better, they will leave. Check out what I didn't say, that the other person is better, because it is just about the perception. So a person leaves you because the perception they have of you or of that other relationship, guess what doesn't feature in that at all? Your worth or what you did. Because at the end of the day, the reason why people leave situations is because our human brain is wired into always moving away from something we don't want and towards something we do want. But here's the conundrum. Every single relationship will give you equal benefits and drawbacks, equal light and dark. So the relationship that person was in with you had light and dark. They are now moving into this new relationship thinking it will only give them light. And guess what? When they get there, the universe is still yin and yang, and that new relationship will give them equal up and down benefits and drawbacks. So that brings me onto number 2, the number 2 question that will absolutely wreck your head when you've been left by someone, which is their life better without me? No, it's not. No matter how much Facebook will tell you the opposite, their life is still their life. They're going to go have equal challenge and support. Their partner will have lovely characteristics and mean characteristics. Their life together will have as many ups and as many downs. And that person is still the same person with as many upsides and downsides. But when your brain loops in that, is their life better without me? Oh my God, I see them on Facebook. It's all just roses all the time. Well, that's your head messing with you on a grand scale. And guess what you have to do? You have to master your mind. You have to manage your emotions and master your mind. Okay? And you have to get education about how life really works. If you don't understand human behavior or the dynamics of the balance of life, these thoughts are going to loop again and again. So I'm giving you the 5 big questions. When they start to loop in your head, then you know that you do not have enough self-love and self-care, and you don't understand how life and people function. That's when you, I know this sounds crazy, but that's when you need to immediately pick up the phone to me, and we need to give you that information ASAP to calm your head down. Because unless we calm your head down, you will not be able to step into the second stage, which is the active healing. Okay, the third question that will drive your mind insane is, will I feel this bad forever? Because that's the fear. Oh my God, I'm in this terrible place and I'm going to feel this awful forever. Well, again, you don't understand how life works. You don't understand how your body works, because shock is something that is, comes to a crescendo and then should soothe out as time goes by. But of course, it can only do that when you have the tools to work with it. One of the favorite quotes that I love to hate is, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I absolutely disagree with that. What doesn't kill you makes you jaded, angry, bitter, stalking your ex on Facebook, bitching with your friends about what a shit beep they are, and also checking up on them, and also all the crazy shit. Usually people are drugged up, angry, get health problems, because that angst translates into your body, and it will, once it's stopped looping in your mind, it will just loop in your body. And that's where a lot of people go, yeah, I've totally dealt with it. And I completely disagree with that. If you haven't gone through stage 2 of active healing, and you haven't gone into what was the message, the lesson, the blessing, and the gift of that relationship, I'm sorry, you are in denial if you cannot say that you can see that that was a 50-50 job and that brought as much upside as downside. And if you are not crystal clear on the lesson that that relationship brought you, you can tell everyone that you're done with it, but actually the denial is just slowly and surely eating in your body. All right, question number 4, that's going to drive your mind insane. Is this happening to me because I'm not good enough? Did they leave because I'm not enough? Well, the answer is they left because they perceived that another situation was giving them more of what they want and you were giving them less of what they wanted. Is it about who you truly are? No, because it's about their perception. Like I said, you could have been the perfect person if you reminded them of an ex, or you did something that reminded them of an ex. You're toast, because you cannot control other people's perception. You are who you are. What they perceive about you is outside of your control. You are good enough. But good enough is a state of mind. It's an act of self-love. And self-love is about understanding that you have as many upsides and downsides. They have as many upsides and downsides. But that your upsides are perfectly aligned with your purpose. And your downsides are even more perfectly aligned with who you are. Because the universe doesn't do things for shits and giggles. You are perfect the way you are, with your upsides exactly in the way they are and your downsides exactly the way you are. And if another person perceives that to not give them what they want and need, which besides the fact most people don't know what they want and need, most human beings are just winging it through life. Every single person that you meet will have a different capacity for relationship, a different capacity to connect, a different capacity to communicate. I know everybody wants to qualify, it's like that's what we all do. We meet somebody and we go, whoop, we've got chemistry. And then you remember that somebody said you had to be compatible as well, but nobody talks about capacity, because the other person needs to be, wait for it, willing and able. A lot of people are willing to be in a relationship. Hell, a lot of people will tell you exactly what kind of relationship they want to be in. They will even tell you that in their perception, you are the one that they have been waiting for. But do they have the capacity? Have they had the childhood, the upbringing, the experiences, the education to actually be in such a relationship? 9 out of 10 times that answer is a big fat no. Because nobody taught you. Nobody taught you. Not your parents, they didn't know. The school wasn't in the curriculum. Your life wasn't set up. I'm telling you now, you need to learn how to do relationships. You need to learn how to love yourself. This stuff doesn't happen by itself. It just doesn't happen by itself. Okay, number 5. The question number 5 that will drive you insane is, if only I had done X, Y, Z, this wouldn't have happened. That one alone is going to drive you insane, completely and utterly insane. That thing of, if only I had known, if only I had something different. Well, guess what? There's no guarantees. Absolutely zero guarantees that you doing something else would have in any way shaped this relationship in another way. Because guess what? It is still about the other person's perception. Perception? Yes, perspective and perception. That's a bit of a blah, blah, blah. Perception. Yes, Helen just said the monkey mind. Yep, that's your monkey mind. Your monkey mind is going to loop in these 5 questions that are going to drive you insane. How do you stop the 5 questions running crazy in your mind? Number 1, self-soothe, self-care, and self-parent. Sometimes that is active, like take care of your food, take care of your water, take care of your sleep, take care of your exercise, take care of the active part, but then also the inactive part. Distract yourself, Netflix, whatever, hang out with friends, add joy to your life. So there's an active and a passive. But then you must step into that second stage of active healing. What was the lesson, the message, the blessing, and the gift? And you need to really, to calm your head down, the 2 things you need to have the understanding of how you work, how life works, how people work, why these things happen to you, okay? And then you need self-love, solid self-love. I'm going to talk more about, that's obviously my core course, 8 weeks. It starts in February. 8 weeks, learning how to fall in love with yourself is, in my opinion, the most important investment in your life. Because once you understand yourself and you have solid boundaries, life's challenges don't derail you. They do knock you a little here and there, depending on how big they are, but they will never, ever derail you ever again. Right. So we've done the 5 questions. I'm going to step into that place of, I have a 10-step process that connects your head back to your heart. And that process is what you need to actually trust the universe. And this is what I do in my job every single day. People come to me and they go, oh my God, this has happened. You know, whatever that is, but particularly in heartbreak and heartache. So what I'd like you to do right now is hopefully you can either write them with me. I will also post the 10 steps to get your heart to connect with your head, to connect with your heart, and the 10 steps to trust the universe. Again, I'm going to go through them quite fast. I hope you can write them down, but also, you know, it might be a good idea just to close your eyes and listen to them. Okay, so the first thing to do when somebody leaves you, or when that heartache and heartbreak comes back up, step 1 is come back to breath. Equal in breath and out breath. Come back to center, come back to core. And the way you immediately connect with the universe, the heart, that soul, that space of unconditional love within yourself, is to breathe. Equal in breath, equal out breath. You just need the whole system to calm down. Then add self-care, self-parent, self-soothing. If you don't know what that is, private message me. Let's get a really beautiful cocoon around you. Doesn't matter whether you were left 5 minutes ago or 5 years ago. If you are still in that number 1 shock phase, we need to immediately build a cocoon of self-care, self-love, and self-soothing around you. Okay. Step 2 is gratitude. Even though it feels like your entire life has gone to shite, you need to immediately sit down, especially if you're in that shock phase. Take out a big piece of paper, write down, stick it on your fridge, write down everything that is still going right. We do this to calm down your mind, to bring down that cortisol. Write down all the things you take for granted. Food, water, shelter, safety in the street, you know, being free, not being afraid that you'll go outside and being bombed to bits. Write down all the things, because that's what your mind loses track of when you are in a state of heartache and heartbreak. Stick it in a prominent place in your kitchen, on your fridge, and add to it every single day. Check in with that all the time. Whenever you feel that heartache and heartbreak come up again, come back to breath, come back to gratitude. The third aspect is compassion. No matter how bad and awful and shocking and hurtful the other person's actions are, they are doing the best they can. Now, that might not look great to you, but every single human being on this planet has come from a different place of upbringing, from a different place of experience, from a different place of being hurt and bewildered. Whatever that other person is delivering to you, and if that means walking away and cutting you off, that is the best they've got. And you completely freaking out about that is the best you've got as well. You need to cut them some big compassion, and you need to cut yourself some big compassion, because the idea that there is this evil person sitting over a crystal ball planning ways to plot to hurt you is just not true. There is nobody sitting there putting needles in a little straw doll of you. What that person is delivering that to you, no matter how insane it might seem from your perspective, they are doing the best they can with their capacity, with their history, with their trauma, with their limited ability to actually lean into a relationship and deal with it. Very, very few people actually naturally have what it takes to conduct a deeply loving relationship. We all like to think we do, but the amount of patience and vulnerability and communication and connection it takes to build the relationship you really want, I think naturally, probably less than 1% of human beings on the planet have the capacity. You can learn, there's no question about it, but That requires a large part of maturity, doesn't it? To actually say, hey, just because I'm human, I'm not just going to be perfectly great at relationships. I need to learn. But also then to have that in a relationship and going, you know, it's not all going to be roses every day. There is going to be breakdown. We need to learn how to reconnect. And this is what I do on my course. It's called the Love Insurance Plan that launches later on in the first part of the year. You need to learn how to do relationships, right? Cut them some slack. They're doing the best they can. You're doing the best that you can. Even if you stalk them, even if you drunk text them, cut yourself some slack. You're doing a very difficult thing and you're doing really, really well. And you're doing the best you can with your history and your life, okay? Number 4. Number 4 is a concept that I don't expect you to get tonight, but this is one of the key aspects of understanding the way that the universe works. And it says you cannot lose anything, it just changes form. It's the second law of thermodynamics called energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only be transformed. Which means that as soon as that person walks out of your life, something else will walk in to give you the same energy. Maybe not in one person, maybe not even in a human. I'll give you a little example. When my ex left, immediately one of my best friends came to stay with me. All of a sudden my pets were all over me. All of a sudden the house that I was in that I'd never thought about felt like it was holding me. You cannot lose anything in energetic, elemental, universal terms. You can only have transformation. One of the things that radically calms your brain down, and you will have to learn that with me, is how to understand that, how to spot that when something moves away from you, something else steps back in. And that new form is actually essential for you to grow into where you need to grow to. Okay, that's number 4. It's a big topic. Number 5, the universe will never, ever give you a challenge that you're not ready for. If it's here, it's divine. If it's divine, you're ready. So trust that you're ready for this right now. Number 6, you are already supported in exactly the right way to keep holding you up while the challenge is trying to push you down. Because as the challenge is trying to push you down, the support is holding you back up. You will never, ever be challenged without being equally supported by exactly the right people. Maybe not the people you want. Sometimes your family won't support you. Sometimes your friends won't support you. But the support will come in exactly the right way for you to be in that place of maximum growth. Number 7 is every experience, every challenge is here to teach you a lesson. Primarily, every challenge is here to bring you back to wholeness, back to love, back to deliver something to you that you're currently not aware of. In my workshops, I go into much, much more detail, but you can look in the Project Glow Facebook videos about the lesson, the blessing, the message and the gift in your challenges. And then number 8 is suffering. Suffering is only in your mind. It is real, it is raw, it is terrifying, but it is only in your mind because the universe already has your back. Everything is already on track for your highest learning. You are already supported in exactly the right way. You can never lose without something new taking its place. Everybody's doing the best they can with what they've experienced. You are doing the best you can. Everything is totally on track, even with difficult things, and I've been through some of them, with a death or a very grave life-threatening illness. Even in those times, the universal kind of support system is there. It's on track. It's your mind. It is only in your mind. But trust me, that only isn't an only, because in this life, this is your journey. This is your journey to connect your mind back with your heart and through it to the universe around you, that you can finally come to a place where you understand that every heartache and heartbreak is actually trying to break you open to a greater level of self-love and to a greater understanding of how people, the universe, life, love, relationships, and all those elements of your life are truly already on track, guiding and growing you to your greatest wish and your most infinite, beautiful potential. Right, that is me for today. Thank you so much. Please reach out to me if you're in a place of heartache and heartbreak. It is bewildering to navigate this by yourself, not because you are weak or there is anything wrong with you, but nobody taught you the essential elements that you need to navigate through this safely, to navigate through this with your grace and your honor intact, and to navigate through this without having to resort to coping mechanisms that are just slippery sliding scales to making you feel even worse. Reach out to me. I'm here for you. Thank you so much for being on this Sunday night self-care session all about heartbreak and heartache. And thank you so much for being part of this journey with me. I really appreciate you guys being on this journey with me and giving me your support and also giving me all your comments and suggestions and questions. Thank you so much, and I will be in the comments a little while below. If you have any questions, type them in the comments or private message me. Thank you so much and take care. Have an awesome Sunday. Bye.